Hi guys, my name is Anna Betts, and this is my video project. Okay, contextualizing your identity can be difficult. Understanding where your roots come from can take time, patience, and especially empathy. Systematic social inequalities have made it so entire generations have eroded and have had to abandon cultural practice. Colonialism has bled into all sectors of society: education, labor, family, politics, and the list goes on. Today, I plan on focusing on education and educational practice. I intend to analyze systems of oppression. Ethnic studies, an interdisciplinary field, has pushed for the implementation of contextualizing our history, experiences, and cultural practices. Since we briefly discussed what ethnic studies is, I want to express some of the foundational and key components of what this field promotes. Self-determination and liberation are at the forefront. Accumulating a strong sense of identity and liberation is essential for any developing brain. It is important to see yourself or people like you reflected in your education, career path, and even on large media platforms. I want to steer back to this idea of self-determination. According to what the research says about ethnic studies written by Christine E. Slater and Miguel Zavala, they say, we know from research and social psychology that having a strong sense of ethnic identity and high racial awareness is linked with young people's mental health and achievement. Feeling secure in who one is and whom one is connected to provides the basic for doing other things. And they have the statistics to back that up. A study was done involving Al-Shual and Oyserman and Bayubi, 2008, found that Latinx eighth graders ranging from recent to second and third generation immigrants earning higher grades tended to have bicultural identities, while those earning lower grades identified either little or exclusively with their cultural origin. Furthering evidence. I want to dive into a historical analysis of systematic oppression. One of the important pillars in Unit 3 of a Liberated Ethnic Studies Model Curriculum Coalition is that while understanding the study of forms of oppression, it is also essential that we critically engage ourselves in developing critical consciousness and reclaiming hope and healing. This can be done by counter storytelling or group engaged conversation. Within this process, it is important to cultivate an environment where people feel safe enough to speak, that it takes empathy. Another key value alongside cultivation is critique. We must critique social hierarchies like white supremacy, patriarchy, in order to dismantle systems of oppression. For example, in the reading, Note to Educators, Hope Required When Growing Roses in Concrete, written by Duncan and Andre, they bring up this concept of mythical hope and how when President Obama was elected, or when we see people of color centralized in media, it leads to a colorblind society where we think no oppression exists and it never has. However, that is not the case. And within understanding colonialist systems, we can break it down with methodology like Duncan and Andre's. I'm now going to turn it over to some interviews that I have and ask them about their own educational experiences growing up. Okay, so I have Valerie here, and she's sitting right next to me. And I want to ask her, what did your education look like in U.S. history?
I remember difficult topics being taught to us in a more digestible manner, but instead of watering down history, they changed it. Martin Luther King was a nice guy who just wanted everyone to get along. He wasn't a radical activist, and he wasn't assassinated for fighting for racial equality. This was also ancient history. I remember being 21 and seeing the first image of Martin Luther in color. He was younger than my great-grandmother was, who was alive when I was being taught this history. And Christopher Columbus was this brave explorer. He and the Native Americans sat at a big table, celebrated the first Thanksgiving together, and everybody was friends. He taught them how to read and write, how to go to church. It wasn't until high school I learned what a colonizer was, and it wasn't until college I learned it wasn't a good thing. Colonizers are taught as explorers, ambitious adventurers looking for pretty land for kings and queens. We didn't learn how he enslaved people, that he raped people, that it was his diseases and violence and ignorance that created a genocide. How come they told us Hitler was bad and Christopher Columbus was good?
Thank you, Valerie. Okay, and then I have Amy sitting right here next to me, and my question for her is, if you could change or expand education for children today, what would you implement?
Thank you for asking. So I think that one of the first things that young people should learn these days that's not currently in the education system is learning how to budgeting skills, learning how to balance a checkbook, or that kind of thing. Students aren't taught that. I also feel that climate responsible practices is something that should be put into school these days because, again, it's something that's not currently practiced. And lastly, I feel that through all grades, kindergarten all the way to high school, young people should be taught how to spot fake information, fake news, and things like that, since social media is a big part of young people's lives these days, and they use it in their education processes.
Thanks, Amy.